Have you ever slipped and fallen? Have you ever slipped and fallen in front of a huge group of people? It's embarrassing, right? You feel so ridiculous. Now, if you fell and you didn't really get hurt, you might be more embarrassed, right? Your face turns red and you do this kind of laugh, cry kind of thing, and everyone's asking if you're okay, and you're like, yeah, I'm fine. And they're like, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, totally, I'm fine. And they're like, that was really bad. And you're like, I know, I'm okay. And you get up and get away, right? That's all you want to do. Well, we might call that an accident. You fell. It wasn't really your fault, and you have nothing really to feel ashamed about, but it's embarrassing. Now, if you choose to do something dumb, like jump off a platform, which is next to a basketball hoop, in order to dunk a basketball and impress your 8th grade friends, even if you know it's risky and there's a chance you'll get hurt, and then your grip slips on the rim and your feet fly up and you go horizontal and you land on the ground with nothing but your wrist to break your fall, and you end up smashing your wrist to bits and have to wear a cast, well, that's a bit different. It's a fall, for sure, but it's a result of your own stupidity. Not that happened to me. I mean, that's ridiculous. I would never do anything like that. No, I wouldn't. Now, we typically call the story of when Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the forbidden tree the fall into sin. And fall they did, pretty hard. But they didn't fall into sin accidentally, like slipping on a wet spot you couldn't see. No, Adam and Eve chose to disobey God, to take a pretty big risk to get what they wanted. And they found that they did. But what they wanted and what they got wasn't at all what they expected. It was way worse. In fact, it was so bad that you and I are still experiencing the effects of that fall today. I have to break it to you, and you may already know this, and hopefully you don't like it, but you are a sinner. And you're really good at it too. But that's not good. Don't go patting yourself on the back for that one. We'll find out why in a moment. But here's the thing. Everyone is a sinner. Yep, even lovely Mrs. Jenkins, who always smiles and waves when you walk by her house as she feeds the birds and squirrels from the palm of her hand. Yep, even that newborn baby who literally has not even had time to do a single thing. Even, of course, the people locked up in jail for doing terrible things. Even your parents. Sorry, Mom and Dad, but it's true. And it's not good to lie to your kids. And finally, once again, in case you didn't catch it the first time, you are a sinner. So, what makes a sin a sin? And what makes a sinner a sinner? And what's the big deal about that anyway? Now, you might remember from last session that God made everything good. That means not bad. That means not evil or sinful. And God gave human beings the task of taking care of creation. Humans were the crown jewel of everything. And to them, God gave almost absolute freedom. There was just one itsy bitsy command that God gave. And it wasn't, on the surface, very difficult to keep. God says, you can eat from any tree, even the tree of life, God says. But just stay away from that one. That one, right there. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat from that tree, God says, you will die. Simple, right? Apparently not. Adam and Eve had one job to do and they failed. Eating the fruit was the outward sign of an inward problem. They had rejected God. Now you might say to yourself, that's a bit extreme. I mean, they didn't reject God, they just disobeyed. Or they made a mistake. Or they just slipped and fell. I get it. When your parents ask you to clean the dishes or pick up your room and you don't, you're not rejecting them, right? Like, you're not saying you don't need them. You're just saying you don't have to do what they tell you to do. Because this is your room, and you're your own person, and you're capable of making your own decisions, and you know what's best for you, and you don't really need them. You see, by rejecting anything they give or ask of you, you are essentially rejecting them. You're saying, I don't need you. But we know that's not really the case. We do need them. And it's similar when we sin. When we sin, we say, I know better than you, God. I can make my own decisions. I know what's best for me. I don't really need you. That was the first and ultimately every sin after. And to make matters more complicated, sin isn't just bad stuff you do or good stuff you don't do. Those are called actual sins, where it involves action of some sort. But then there's a different way of looking at sin. We call it original sin or inherited sin. Sin is an infection. It's a disease that's attached itself to you, right now, to you, even down to your DNA. Because Adam and Eve sinned, and by the way, you wouldn't have done any better. And by the way, who really is to blame for sin? The devil? Eve? Adam? God? Did you notice that Adam blames both Eve and God? He says, the woman you gave me, God, she tricked me. And Eve blames the serpent. He tempted me. And I think the serpent just hisses and smiles and says, mission accomplished. But all three, Adam, Eve, and the devil, they are responsible for their own actions. They chose the path that leads to death. Okay, back to where we got off on a tangent. Because sin entered the world, it has corrupted everything. We are no longer inherently good anymore. Neither is anything else. Sickness and disease and viruses and cancer and mental illness and anxiety and bullying and hurricanes and wildfires, all of those things are not part of God's original plan for His creation. We are not sinners because we do sins. We do sins, we do bad things because we are sinners, because we are sinful, because we are infected, and we were born that way. There is no way you can get rid of it. So, good luck. Nope, can't leave you hanging there, because there's still hope. Maybe you caught it near the end of the story. God makes a promise to Adam and Eve and to all of creation that He's going to set things right once and for all. God will take responsibility for putting things back in order, but it's going to cost Him something. In Genesis 3:15, God makes a promise. God tells the serpent, I will put enmity or hostility between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. So there's going to be this sort of tension and opposition between the devil and his demons and those opposed to God and human beings. But then God says something else about the woman's offspring. He says, he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Other translations say, he shall crush your head. Well, what does this mean? At Christmas time, we sing a familiar Christmas hymn. Maybe you know it. Hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Remember it? Well, the second verse goes like this. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold Him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Sound familiar? Veiled in flesh, the Godhead see, hail the incarnate deity, pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus, our Emmanuel. Hark, the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Right away, right after sin enters the world, God promises that He would send someone born of a woman, someone born in human flesh, that would be wounded, yes, but that sin, death, and the devil would be destroyed by Him. And that person is Jesus. Jesus is the answer to the problem of sin. He was wounded on the cross, and yes, He really died, but it wasn't a mortal wound because Jesus rose again. It was only a nip on the heel. Christ paid the price for your sin and mine, and he made a way for sin to no longer separate us from God. Death is no longer the end of our story, and the devil has no power over your eternity because Christ has conquered all. That is the good news as we keep in mind when we think about the story of the fall into sin or our choice to reject God and his word. We know that God also made a choice. He chose to come, to love you, to die for you, to rise for you, and he promises to choose to come again and bring you to be with him forever. What a great and loving God we serve. Amen.